Welcome to another edition of Papa's Perspective, brought to you by Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store and a mattress partner of the New York Giants. And as we celebrate 100 seasons, who better to have than two-time Super Bowl champion, Coach Tom Coughlin. And, Coach, you know, when you think about your teams that you had when you first came here in 2004, and then when you were able to build, I think about this offensive line as one of the centerpieces, bringing in an O'Hara, acquiring a Kareem McKenzie, and then the guys that you drafted like Chris Snee. Talk about that engine that helped move that entire operation.
Well, it's no secret that what I believe in is the fronts, the offensive line and the defensive line. I mean, to me, that's where you give yourself a chance to compete right there. Now, you got to have a great quarterback. You have to have a franchise quarterback. You have to have the ingredients as well. But it starts up front, because if you can't, for example, protect the quarterback, then your quarterback is going to be harassed and his career is probably going to be pretty short. But the process, you know, when you look at those five, I mean, you know, you talk, even if you go to left guard and talk about Richie, you know, Richie Soybert, probably one of the toughest guys you've ever been around, such a competitor, such fire in the belly, but probably the best locker room, you know, ball buster he and O'Hara could have gone on the road together. I would have paid to put him on the road, those two guys. And then Snee, you know, there are two guys, Linville Joseph and Chris Snee, lift the building. I mean, literally lift the building. They were the strongest two. Chris's game, the power game, you know, loved it. You know, great in the squats, great in the bench, whatever. But the power game, and then the battleship beside him, you know, McKenzie. You know, I think about Super Bowl 42, the fourth down. Everybody in the stadium, the Patriots, everybody knew where the ball was going. It was going right behind those two guys with Brandon Jacobs at, you know, 265 pounds. So the power. Sean in the middle, great, had the ability to scheme, the scheme blocker. Richie pulling and, you know, running. If you said slant 36 power was the key play in the run game, then you got to pull the left guard. Boom, that was Richie. And, of course, David Deal. It's the amazing thing about David Deal, you know, was he the ideal left tackle? Was he this? Was he that? David Deal had the shortest memory in the history of memories, because if he had a bad play, that was it. It was over. Let's go to the next play. That's the kind of confidence he had in himself. Great worker. So together, if you know how they sat in the offensive line room, that's how their chairs were. Here's the screen over here. Sean's in the middle. Chris is here. Kareem's on that side. Then you had Richie. Then you had Deal. And away we go. And, of course, later on in Super Bowl 46, it's, you know, it's Boss and it's Booth and, you know, that type of thing. So, but it starts up front. It starts there, and it's an interesting concept, because if you go by the offensive line room, pretty quiet, methodical, you know, they're talking schemes. Then you go by the defensive line room, and you better be ready, because it sounds like a barroom brawl. That's what it sounds like. And, you know, you open the door, and there's a picture on the board in there of a great big face with his teeth about this far apart. You know, they've drawn a picture of Strahan right for the board so that everybody could. But that side of the ball, you know, when you stop and think about that group of guys and the way they played, you know, I was talking to Chris Canty, just like if I was talking to Michael Strahan. You know, you think about one of the Super Bowls, and then you look at the defensive front, and then you know why we won Super Bowls, because we knocked Brady down so many times, you know, intercepted him, knocked him down, you know, discouraged him. I mean, even late in the game, the hit that Jay Alford had on him, you know, in Super Bowl 42 in the last drive was, I mean, he hit him full right in the middle, full speed at Jay's 295 pounds or whatever, 310 pounds, whatever he was. But that's where it starts.
So many of your guys have made this all-time Giants top 100 list, which is pretty amazing.
21 of them, I think.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, whether it's Michael or Eli. And
don't forget, probably there may not be a player, to be honest with you, in the 2 Super Bowls that played any better than Justin Tuck. I mean, Justin Tuck's, playoffs and Super Bowls were unbelievable. I mean, and the fact that, what Spags call it, the NASCAR package, where all of a sudden the guard looks up and tucks over him.
It's a win.
No chance.
It's a win. It's a win.
No chance.
I want to ask you a little bit about, 2 of the guys that made the top 100, Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw.
Oh.
Right, and sort of the way they played off each other, the way you were able to utilize those 2 backs, they really kind of were symbolic of what your team was about, weren't they?
That's right. That's exactly right. And you know what? They rooted for each other. And that's when you really know you got a championship team, is when guys take great pride and joy out of the accomplishments of one of their teammates. And that's what those 2 did. It didn't matter. I mean, I looked at the list a couple of times. Bradshaw was listed as the starter. Brandon didn't bother Brandon at all. Remember that first running play in the NFC Championship game in Green Bay when Brandon Jacobs ran over Hall of Famer Woodson?
Knocked his logo out.
Put him right on his back. It was one of the great hits. And in the freezing cold, which it was, that hit still resonated around the whole stadium. So back and forth. And, how do you not love Bradshaw? I mean, I love the kid, you talk about toughness. You talk about getting everything out of his ability. When he lowered his shoulder, look at how close to the ground he was. People a lot of times were catching him with their chest, and he'd knock them back. I mean, he would run over people, but he could catch the ball. Think about the play he made in Green Bay just before Super Bowl 46 to get us to San Francisco, where just before the half, we run the ball thinking, all right, if it doesn't go anywhere, the half ends and blah, blah, blah. He runs down the field, runs out of bounds. We line up on the next play, throw a Hail Mary. Up goes Akeem Nicks, catches the ball. Green Bay's done. That's a 15-1 Green Bay team.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time you went to Green Bay, you weren't getting a soft touch.
No way.
You mentioned Akeem and what he brought. I mean, obviously, everyone remembers 2011.
It's a vacuum cleaner, Bob.
Yeah,
It's a vacuum cleaner. When he caught the ball, that's what it sounded like. It was one of those deals. I mean, he caught the ball so well. If he got his hands on the ball, it was his ball. I mean, his hands are like,
yeah.
And I just saw him out in the hallway. It's amazing to me because, I looked at, there were 2 games that people were talking about. And of course, Super Bowl 40, the guy caught 12 balls in Super Bowl 46.
They had one of the great postseasons of any receiver ever.
Unbelievable.
Did you know, till this day, you could have Favre's picture up there, you could have Rodgers' picture up there, you could have Peyton Manning's picture up there, you could have Tom Brady, Drew Brees, you could have all these Mahomes. Eli's postseason, till this day, as of this recording, the 2011 postseason, he still holds the record for the most passing yards by any quarterback in the history of a postseason. And Akeem Nicks was a big part of it. What he did against the Atlanta Falcons, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's zeroing in on Victor because rightfully so, Victor had a breakout year.
He's the reason we got there. If you look at the 99-yarder against the Jets, that's a team. Bob, people don't realize this. I will tell you this. Those 2 teams, Super Bowl 07 and 11, there are more great stories for people who are down and out than anything you can imagine. Can you ever think of a team that lost 4 straight in the regular season, won the Super Bowl? How do you like walking into a meeting room? And, we went to New Orleans, and they destroyed our butts. Right. We lost to Green Bay, but that was a 38-35er. We know how those – but, and then we had – but they overcame the resiliency, the resiliency to still believe in yourself and to come roaring back after that. The stories they're amazing stories.
You know, in 2011, you guys didn't run the ball very well during the course of the regular season, and defensively with Tuck being hurt and OC being hurt, you know, you didn't play the kind of defense. But no. Victor has that 99-yarder against the Jets. And then at the end of the game, when Bradshaw runs over the safety against the Jets, I know for me in the booth, it felt like, you know what? The Giants that I know are back.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way a little bit?
I mean, you look at the numbers. You know, you started off with Eli. I don't know that there's ever been a big game guy that played like he did, and you could tell by looking in his eyes. You know, it was a different look. And what he did in those two games, I mean, I think his testimony play is the play in 46 where, you know, he hits Manningham right at the feet of Belichick, and Chung is playing safety on that side. Chung's one of the fastest guys on the field as a safety. He comes across the angle created by Manningham as he opened up and turned his shoulders toward the sideline to catch the ball, put Chung's head behind him. Chung's head goes in front of him. That ball's probably going to get knocked out. But there it is. What was it, 38 yards? It was first down, but we were backed up. We don't get out of there. Brady's got the ball at midfield.
Right. Rest is history. Antonio Pierce made this list. Now he's a head coach in the NFL. I think kind of what symbolized Antonio Pierce more than anything is the play late in the first half in Green Bay. It's third down. They got a screen set up. There's three blockers. If they go in for a touchdown there, who knows? Maybe they get control of that football game. That's having a coach on the field because his film preparation led him to that, didn't it?
He was smart. He was instinctive. He knew the game very well. I mean, you will remember this because you saw it, but if somebody was driving the ball on us, inevitably one of our defensive linemen was going to get nicked. It was Antonio. He'd tell him, "Get up, stay down." You know, he would, but that's the kind of player he was. That's the kind of guy he was, you know, from where he comes, you know. I mean, always a smile. I don't care if we got beat, if it was there was what's next. It was but he's smart and he's instinctive, and that's why he has the job he has. Plus, you know, he stood up in a room and he told people that you have to believe in yourself first before you can think you can go on the field and win. The owner hears that. The owner said, they asked the owner, why'd you pick him? Because I'm picking a guy who believes we can win. That's Antonio Pierce. You know, and that screenplay, Bob, we don't have anybody else even close.
Right.
There's nobody over there. So he wheels his way through three guys and makes the tackle. Otherwise, that's out of the end zone. People in the stands are going to get run into by the ball carrier.
So we all remember your face in Green Bay. It's freezing cold. However, Eli, Plaxico, and Amani played the game as if it was 53 degrees
75. 75 degrees is the way he threw the ball.
Yeah.
And Plaxico had, 12 catches and had a tremendous football game. Amani, of course, had a great playoff run. But there's that game and the way that Eli spun the ball and again, the resiliency, you know, it was incredible to be a part of that.
How'd you build a relationship with Eli? I mean, every quarterback head coach relationships are different. We've heard Phil Simms talk about his early days with Parcells.
Which
you witnessed it.
He thought his first name began with an F.
It's completely different with Eli. How did you build that relationship and that trust with him and back and forth where there was never once a sideward word mentioned between either of you?
Well, you know, first of all, you understand where he's coming from. You know, when you take a guy and you give up what you give up. Now, that was Ernie Accorsi, you know, but through the course of watching that work I think I told you about him, about Eli, the difference between Eli and Peyton. When Eli worked out at the New Orleans facility, the whole NFL's there, right? The whole NFL. So let's say it's 12:30. I think it was 12:30 he was going to throw. It's a little after 12. Archie's on the phone calling, Eli, where are you? What that? I stopped to get something to eat. I got a sandwich. If it's Peyton, Peyton's there sweeping the floor at 10:30 a.m. So in comes Eli, a little bit shy, puts on the greatest passing performance with 5 guys. He didn't play with those guys. A couple guys from Tulane, he's out there throwing to those guys. A tremendous showing. But so he gets here, and mom and dad are there, and I think it's the quality of the young man, and you remember, I legitimately stood back and let them compete, and then decided on Kurt as the starter, which that hurt Eli, but the quality of guy. He stood there on the sideline. I gave him assignments every week. He did it. He did his assignments. He did everything the right way. And then it was time, and we got him in there. Didn't go well. He got his butt blitzed like no man for back-to-back weeks, Redskins and then Baltimore. But we won the last game of the year, and he won it on a gutsy call. He checked to a run on the goal line, and we scored and won the game. That gave us, in the next year, he comes back and wins 11 games in his second year. But the quality of the man, the work ethic, guys are taking their Tuesdays. He's in there first thing Tuesday morning with the tape and studying the next guy and so on. No coaches. The coaches would eventually give him, what he needed that night. Here's the starting game plan type thing. But the quality of the man, the quality of the individual, he's straightforward, he's honest, he's got a great sense of humor. He can take it. He was just like those offensive linemen in the locker room. He could dish it out, but he could take it. Like Strahan. Strahan dishes it out. He could take it. It's kind of a positive thing. And I chuckle to myself because I came to those scrimmages out here with Detroit, those practices with Detroit. And, of course, there a bunch of guys were there. Strahan was there. Bradshaw was there. A lot of the guys were there. Canty, a lot of guys were there. But Strahan must have overheard Bradshaw telling everybody that he really loves golf now. So Strahan's walking around going, "There's no way Bradshaw's any good at golf. I'm just gonna tell you right now, he's not a good golfer, okay?" And he's never seen him play, but you got to have a little bit of that in the locker room. Sean was great at it. Michael was great at it. Richie was great at it. And Eli was great at it. Eli could bust him, but he could take it. And the quality of that type of individual. I mean, yeah, you go through your hard times. Nobody takes – if you come to New York, you're going to get your ass ripped by the media. The greatest story in the world for people. We draft Eli. He comes in for the rookie minicamp, okay? He doesn't know the center. It's a rookie minicamp. Who's the center going to be? Never taken a snap from the center. Doesn't know anything about the off. Has no idea what the cadence is. Goes out in the first practice. Doesn't look that good. Doesn't throw the ball that well. The media ripped his butt. Just ripped him. Ripped his butt. His first time on the practice field.
Rookie minicamp.
There you go. Rookie minicamp. That's New York, Coughlin, get rid of him. He's no good. He's a bum. Get rid of his ass. What is he doing here? He can't coach. He can't. But if you come to New York, you're either tough enough when you come or you're tough-skinned when you leave. But that quality of individual on a team in the middle of a very long, difficult, physically tough, mentally tough season, you can't. It's a must ingredient. And I learned from him. I learned from the team as well. And I grew as well in terms of recognizing and understanding that in this place, okay, in this town, okay, if you lose, your players and your team are just going to get ripped to death. And it took me, I'm not saying I was good at it, but I tried, that, you got to point out mistakes, but sticking the knife in and all of that stuff. No, that would not be the thing to do in New York.
Final question. The Giants have an unbelievable history of assistant coaches, whether it's under Jim Lee Howell, Tom Landry running the defense, Vince Lombardi running the offense, but then Bill Belichick under Bill Parcells. You under Bill Parcells. Fred Hoagland coaching the offensive line, who you brought with you to Jacksonville. Pat Flaherty, Steve Spagnuolo. There's two people who have their name etched on the 4 Super Bowl trophies that sit in this lobby. Ronnie Barnes, Director of Medical Services, and Mike Pope, who just coached great tight end after great tight end. Let's talk a little bit about the assistants and what they meant to you. A, being one as part of a Super Bowl championship, and then to have guys work with you and follow with you and have success with you wherever you went.
Kevin Gilbride was my offensive coordinator right away in Jacksonville. And after the second year and the run we had in 96 where we went to the AFC Championship game, Kevin got a head job, so he was gone. But when I came to New York, I hired Kevin as the quarterback coach, and he eventually became the coordinator again. But the consistency factor, that type of quality coach being with me for as long as he was huge. And then you just take Spags is working for Andy Reid down the road, okay? I'm looking for a defensive coordinator. And it's, after the 06 season and, everybody's got me, I'm out, you're gone, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking for the right guy. And I interview a bunch of guys. And then I'm looking at the background of Spags. Spags worked for Jack Bicknell. I know Jack Bicknell. I'm not a finer man in all of football than Jack Bicknell. I worked for Jack Bicknell. So we had that in common. I had a good relationship with Andy, and I called Andy to ask if I could interview Spags, and Andy was great. He was, Spags had gone up through the ranks he was then the linebacker coach there. But he learned under Jim Johnson, the defensive coordinator, who was an excellent football coach. We know that from our experiences with them. But so Spags comes, and we hire Spags. But Spags is a part of this process that winter. And I felt good about who we were. I felt good about where we were going. Spags, as my new defensive coordinator, goes out in the first 2 games and gives up 80 points.
Yeah.
But the players, they're good. They know they're headed in the right direction. They got the right guy, Michael hadn't been to camp. He comes in right away, but his presence, the greatest natural leader that I've ever been around, walks in the door and they vote him unanimous captain of the defense. Michael knew they had something good there with Spags, So it starts going. We have to go to Washington and win there, and we're down at halftime. We come roaring back and we get the goal line stand. Otherwise, probably Coughlin's working for one of these gas stations on 17. But good coaches, you can't do it without. I coached with Mike Pope. I was here for Super Bowl 25 and then 42 and 46. I wasn't a Giants coach in 86. But Mike Pope, no question. You stop and think about things, Bob. Think about where the Giants, where we could have kept going if Steve Smith stays healthy, if Kevin Boss stays healthy. Terrell Thomas stays healthy. Jake Ballard stays healthy.
Kenny Phillips.
Just think about if those guys stay healthy and we're able to continue to look at Steve Smith's Super Bowl game in 42. Look at what he did from the slot and how he won. He won easily. And what's he do on fourth and like we make the great catch with Tyree.
Yeah, 3rd and 7. He makes a great play.
11 it was. 3rd and 11. he makes the first down. Eli reads the coverage. They're like rightfully so. They're dropping, right? They're looking for depth because, Belichick coach team. It's 3rd and 11. They got to get 12 yards. He sticks the ball to Steve Smith on the sideline, and Steve just goes up and then ducks out right at the first down marker. Time is out. We weren't done when David Tyree made that catch.
You're right.
3rd and 11.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players that unfortunately got hurt, but celebrating 100 years of Giants football, it's amazing. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time, as always.
I didn't give you any one-liners with 21 guys. Do
you want to do that?
There's a lot of guys. I'm just telling you. It was I'm so part of that. All that experience, that June 20th deal, that was a really, really
night with
nice
legends.
night.
Yeah.
Really nice night. And hopefully Friday night will be the same.
It will. Coach, we appreciate it as always. Thank you so much for your time.
Bob. Good.
That is two-time Super Bowl champion head coach Tom Coughlin on this edition of Papa's Perspective as we celebrate 100 seasons. Brought to you by Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store and a mattress partner of the New York Giants.